Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, currently there are now 51 lawsuits going against the cruise line saying that they should have done more to protect the passengers from the virus. But can they win? So I've had a few of my lawyer friends and subscribers take a look at some of the cases and some of the, lawsuits handed in and what they're complaining and how the wording is. And asked them to give me their honest opinion of, do they think they can win? And there are some strict rules in maritime law. And even on the cruise line's websites, for instance, people are trying to get a class action lawsuit together for one cruise line. Well, right in the contract that you sign and accept to go on a cruise, it says that you will not engage in any class action lawsuits. So is that a loophole? Who knows? Like when you go to a garage and they say not responsible for your damage, for any damage done to your car, but if they crash your car, they're still responsible for it, no matter what that sign says. So it's a curious thing, all these things. Some of those wordings and everything are just to discourage people from doing things. So some of the lawsuits they took a look at, and for instance, some people who were sailing on February 21st are claiming that the cruise lines did not do enough to protect the passengers. And in fact, they should not have sailed on February 21st, knowing that on the previous cruise, they had a couple infected passengers on board, and some of the passengers who were on with them had stayed on there with them. And they're citing the Diamond Princess as an example. However, they have to prove with the knowledge that the cruise ships had at the time, was it reasonable for them to have canceled the cruises? Now remember, the cruise ports and everything and the CDC didn't start shutting things down till the middle of March. A full 3 weeks after this cruise had sailed. I myself sailed in February. Tony and Jenny, my friends, sailed in February. Thousands of us sailed in February because at that point, the only known cases were still way out in Asia and nothing on North American cruise ships. So there's where the issue comes. Knowing with what had happened, knowing with what they did at the time, and what they did about a very new phenomenon, did they take reasonable precautions? And hindsight is 2020. Anyone can say, well, you know what? Had you on February 21st put everyone in their cabins and told them not to leave their cabins, people would have been much safer. Well, yeah, of course. And if you would have told people not to go on the cruise, they would have been much safer. Or you would have told people to stay home and not fly, you would have been much safer. So, but with what they knew at the time, was it reasonable to do that? And at the time, being no cases on any other cruise ship anywhere else in the world other than the Diamond Princess, probably not reasonable to assume that at the time. Another thing they're going to have a hard time to disassociate themselves from is they went on the cruise. So they at that time had as much knowledge as the cruise lines had. And so the cruise lines lawyers are going to say, well, if you were afraid to cruise and you thought there might be a chance of the virus hitting you, why did you cruise? And obviously the answer is going to be, well, I didn't want to lose my money. Well, financial, if you're not willing to lose your money, that means it's not as big a deal to you, if you know what I mean, in the eyes of the law. You value your money over your life, considering that's like me coming up to somebody on the street and saying, give me $5,000 right now, or I'm going to throw you off this building. And the person, if you have that choice, you probably give them the $5,000 if that's your only choice. So you choose your life, your values, your family, your friends over money. And so if you thought it was safe enough to cruise, what makes you think that the cruise lines didn't think it was safe enough to cruise? If they can find some evidence that proves that the cruise line knew that there was an infection on board and it was going to spread and there was nothing they can do about it, you might have a case at that point. But that's a very hard proof. Nothing so far in any investigation out there has come forward to say that the cruise lines were hiding anything at the time. Did they want it to spread and get newsworthy and everything? Of course not. They try and keep it down to a dull roar, if you will. But you know what? The United States government was doing the exact same thing, trying to keep it down to a dull roar. Other countries were doing the exact same thing. They didn't want to start a panic. And so suppressing certain things when you're unsure of what's going on is not the same as hiding things for malicious intent. And so that's where they're going to have a hard time. First of all, you went on the cruise. You knew as much as the cruise lines did. So was it your fault or was it their fault? I went on a cruise. Had I gotten stuck out there, I would not be blaming the cruise line. Both Tony and I, at the end of that cruise there, we were on an MSC Divina ship. And the MSC Meraviglia, it was having all kinds of problems. Not because anybody was sick on board, because the cruise ports were denying them, saying they can't come on because 2 people had the flu at the time. And we thought to ourselves, you know what, we might not be able to get off this ship and, etc. But at no point did we say it's the cruise line's fault. We would have said it's our fault because we went on the cruise. I had cruise insurance. I could have canceled. But at the time, with what we knew, with everything going on in the world, it seemed like an okay thing to still do, to still sail, to still cruise. Right now, would you do it? No, not right now. But then again, we can't go to the grocery store without wearing masks or go on a subway. And so things have changed. So do they have a case? Maybe. But they have to come up with a lot more proof and a lot more evidence than just saying they should have known more. They should have done more. What should they have done? Well, they should have done this. Well, at the time, would that have been reasonable with what they knew? Well, no, but we know now. No. It's not with what we know now. It's with what they knew then. And that's the loophole, and that's the catch of anybody trying to sue a cruise line right now. Well, it's going to be interesting, but these are going to take years and years and years to go through. So it's going to be a long, long process, but are you going to allow them to start suing organizers of spring break? Organizers of Mardi Gras, where people have caught it from going there. You see where it starts coming in. It starts becoming a much bigger issue than just cruise lines. You're going to start suing the U.S. government because they put sick passengers on the plane with healthy passengers when they took people off the Diamond Princess. So many questions, so many things to think about, and so many ramifications that can possibly happen. It's an interesting time to be a lawyer, but I do not envy any lawyer who has to try and prove negligence with no evidence in this case, because it's all about proving that they should have done better, not saying we know they should have done better now. Fine. The U.S. government, UK government, Australia government, Canada government, every government should have done better. But with what they knew at the time, they were doing what they could, as this was an evolving issue. And if this was something that was around for a long time, you know what I mean? Like an outbreak of something that we already knew and how to control, then that would be a completely different situation. However, this was all new. No one knew how it was We didn't even know how it was spread. We didn't even know how there's nothing that we can treat it with. We don't know how long it lasts. We didn't know how long the incubation period was. There's a ton of things that they didn't know, that they couldn't figure out, and that they were playing by ear sort of thing and learning as they go. And the cruise lines were in the exact same boat. The airlines were in the same boat. Organizers of events were in the same boat. Governments were in the same boat. And just because we can look back a month, 2 months, 3 months later and say, you know what? Had we done that, things would be much better. Well, guess what? The minute the virus was announced in China, had we shut down and banned every travel from China, everything, no flights, no nothing, out of China, period, nothing would have spread. It would have stayed there. But we didn't, because we didn't know. And that's where the lawyers are going to have a hard time. Well, I hope you appreciate this update. According to my lawyer friends out there, it's going to be a very, very hard sell to win these cases, but we'll see what happens. Hope you appreciate the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.